Hi everybody, Susan Ascher from the Ascher Group and susanascher.com. I'm so happy to be here today with Elizabeth and Richard Gearhart at Passage to Profit, and I look forward to sharing my ideas on emotional intelligence with all of these wonderful entrepreneurs and innovators. Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth and Richard. It's a pleasure.
So tell us just exactly what is emotional intelligence.
So we all know what IQ is, right? It's how smart somebody is, whether they're part of Mensa, whether they get high scores on their SATs, et cetera, et cetera. But what emotional intelligence is knowing how to treat people. It's knowing how to contain your emotions in the heat of passion when you're upset about something. It's knowing how to really turn lemons into lemonade and make people feel good about what they do. It's about leadership, and it's really the number one indicator of success for entrepreneurs. One other little factoid is that research carried out by the Carnegie Institute of Technology shows that 85% of your financial success is due to skills in human engineering, your personality, the ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. Shockingly, only 15% is due to your technical skill.
Oh my gosh, no wonder.
We're in trouble, aren't we?
We're in trouble.
So why do you think that is?
I think it's because, well, especially in the world today where we're all tethered to our technology, the ability to communicate with someone, I always quote Maya Angelou, the famous philosopher, it's not what you tell me, how great your product is and what it does, but it's how you make me feel when you're making that presentation.
And what need does it satisfy,
well,
right? And need, that's an emotional term.
That's an emotional term. So definitely, that's a gimme. It's like you're an attorney, Elizabeth, you're a chief marketing officer. You have to be skilled at what you do. That's a gimme. However, if you are not nice to people, there are many other people doing what you, Elizabeth, and I are doing, individually. So they can go to any other executive coach if I don't treat them well. They can go to any other intellectual property attorney if they don't like you. So likability is a huge factor when it comes to EQ.
I think so, and I think a lot of people view attorneys as arrogant in general, and we really try hard not to come across that way. I'm not an attorney, but Richard tries really hard just to be one-on-one with people like they're just the same as he is, and not like he's a lot smarter.
I'll tell you what I think the secret to that is it's really having a respect for everyone that comes to see you as a client, and no matter whether they're a Fortune 500 company or a beginning entrepreneur just starting out, unsure of themselves, unsure of their idea, everyone deserves to be listened to and heard and encouraged. And I think that's one of the key parts about gaining trust with your clients is really being a good listener and understanding what they need.
Absolutely. And again, I use the word likability. I do a lot of coaching and professional services, and accountants and lawyers in particular will think, well, I'm so good technically at what I do that, anybody's going to want to hire my firm because I'm a partner there and I'm just great at what I do. The reality is that our businesses, regardless of what we're doing, they are built on relationships, and we want to do business with people, A, who are qualified, but B, who like us and who we like and that we get along with and, as you said, have respect for.
So how do you know if you have a high EQ or a low EQ? It's really hard to understand who you are and see yourself, right? So how do you learn about this?
So interesting. In my profession, we do when I'm working with a client within a corporation, very often they will ask for a 360 performance review. And what that does is the individual sets out who their stakeholders are. And stakeholders would be their superiors, their colleagues on their level, it could be their suppliers, it could be the people that work for them. Assessments get sent out to everyone, and when those assessments come back, we can see what the weaknesses are. And sometimes it's communication, sometimes it could be bullying, it could be a number of things. Sometimes they come back great. But what these assessments look at are really 5 indicators in general, and I'm not talking that every assessment looks at these, but when we look at EQ, we are looking at improved self-awareness, we're looking at more effective communication, We're looking at control over your emotions. We're looking at identifying customer needs more effectively. And then finally, when your company goes from a solopreneur situation to one where you start to have people working for you, where you can unify your team through enhanced leadership. And that's the ability to read people, to know who has what strength where, we play to that, who has what weakness where, we downgrade that, and we look at something else that they are strong in. So, and that's really what emotional intelligence, it's not that hard, but it's huge in the corporate world. It's huge for entrepreneurs, because without that, you cannot forge the relationships that are going to help you build and grow your business.
Well, so I have a question for you. Your first point, I think, is a very good one, and I think it's a very difficult one for pretty much everybody. And that is, how do other people see you and what you're doing? Like, if you tell somebody, oh, go away, leave me alone, some people will just laugh and say, okay, what's wrong? And some people will, like, want to cry. And certainly...
Well, that's really bad behavior, Elizabeth. If people talk like that, and they do, by the way, I mean, we should be treating people, not, we talked about this, not the golden rule, do unto others as you would wish to have done to you, but do unto others as they would wish to have done to them. So that's knowing your people. And when you're a leader, you should know your people. You should take the time to know that Sarah may be very strong in time management, whereas Tom may be the more creative type and he may need more coaching in that particular area. So that's really what EQ defines when it comes to any business person, and especially when you're starting a company.
But if you don't have the 360, what can you do to kind of try to see how people react to you? Is there a way to read people's reactions that you found to be very powerful? What would you suggest?
Well, first of all, I would suggest one-on-ones, and it's also, I'm working with someone right now where she is going to have a one-on-one with her superior who is always criticizing her, cannot find one thing that she does right, even though she is doing very well at her job and is up for a promotion. So this is just a boss that just doesn't understand that, riding someone like that is really not enhancing her performance. Maybe if she came at her and gave her some compliments, and we all know this, we all know that when someone compliments you, that you do better. Positive reinforcement, definitely turns into positivity within the workplace. It's just that we, unfortunately, and I don't want to go and talk about this much, but we do live in a world of a lot of negativity, of a lot of things that are really hurting people coming to work and hurting their emotions, but we have to keep them in check while we're in the workplace. That almost could be a refuge if you have the right leader.
That's amazing. So this takes me back to a situation that we had at the law firm a couple of years ago. We had some employees that were really just two employees in particular, and no matter what we did, we couldn't manage their attitudes. They were always unhappy, they were always crabby, and we tried everything to make them happy, but no matter what we did, we couldn't find the secret. And it eventually ended up that they left the firm. I guess it just wasn't a good fit, and I guess sometimes that's just the way those kinds of stories end. How do you deal with a situation like that?
Well, obviously we can sit down 1, 2, and 3 times and talk to that person. We can also look at ourselves and see if there's something that we could be doing better. Sometimes it's just not a match. But I think Elizabeth and I talked earlier before we got on the show about, how do you build a culture? We all know the adage that leadership starts at the top. We all know this. So what does a good leader look like? It looks like someone who engages. Now, the thing today, again, in the workplace, it used to be engagement, which is still important. It used to be empowerment, which is a must. But where we're going now in the workplace is to fulfillment. So how do we fulfill our employees? And, I said to this person I was with today, ask your boss, maybe she could catch you doing something right. Okay? I remember my daughter when she was in kindergarten, the teacher said to all of us one day in whatever we were doing as parents, catch your child doing something right. It's so important to their growth and development. And that's the same thing when you're a leader in business and you're starting a company. So you're the one that sets the tone. Is it the kind of an office that people want to come into? It's happy. You're happy. I remember back in the day saying to somebody left, one or two people left early one day. And when they came in the next day, I said, "You didn't say goodnight to me." And they said, "Oh, well, you were on the telephone." I go, "But I'm not complete until you say goodnight to me." And that was my culture. And so, we all just had that. I'm not saying every company should do that. That was me. That's what worked for me at that time.